Three, two, one, go.
Hey Jason, how are you doing? I think we have to start off by explaining to the guests why there was no episode last week.
Well, mostly because I was. So, hello, listeners. I was sick. Actually, I'm still kind of coughing, but there's no fever, no nothing. It was just a cold. Feeling much better now.
And did you get tested for corona?
Oh yes, I did. I came back negative, so thank
Good,
God for
perfect.
that.
Wonderful.
The cases are on the increase. So,
Oh yes, tell me about it. I'm in Osaka right now. This is the hotspot in Japan right now.
Yeah, you're like in the middle of the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a lot of heat right now, intensity.
Yeah.
So like all the other places are like in Hyuga, Miyazaki. They're still doing online lessons.
Oh yeah, we just went back to online lessons as well from this week.
So that's how I know it's like, oh shit, it's getting serious again,
Yeah.
We're still okay here in Oita, so just have to watch and see what happens, I was gonna say, we'll probably. I should have brought this up with you. I want to do a small change. I want to start including the intro, and we'll create like a small audio intro to the podcast at the beginning of every episode, and then we'll cut the description of the podcast. That description we like putting in the, what do you call it? Like a summary of what the podcast is about. Well, let's put that in the beginning of the description. Like, we can remove that and just make that audio,
Okay.
And we'll just include it every time. And what will happen is that we will just make it a very consistent intro. Like, the intro is 2 minutes, and the 2 minutes explains what the podcast is about. It might have the theme song in there too, I don't know if we talked about this previously on the podcast, but we do have like somebody who could potentially make us a theme song.
Exactly. Yes, we do.
So yeah, I feel like that avenue is a lot better. It'll make the podcast seem a lot more
orderly. More structured.
It'll make it feel like more brand worthy, So yeah, that's definitely what we're going to do in the next, let's just say 2 episodes.
Yep.
3 episodes is the goal. In the next 2 episodes, that should be up. And yeah, I guess without further ado, we should just get right into it.
Okay, so back to the theme of the month, which is art and psychology. So for the last episode, we got off to a pretty good start on the idea of how art affects society and how the artist's state of mind influences the creation of art, and looked at how drugs affect the artists during the creation of art, and how artists tend to be substance abusers or people who depend on substances. And do you have anything else to add on that, Jason?
No. I think we talked about it quite a bit in like the final minutes of the last episode.
So today I'm going to start off with like just a brief definition of what art is. What is art? So there's no agreed upon definition of art, right? But there are a few expressions and phrases here and there that seem to match up. And what I got is that art is the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty, emotional power, or concepts. But however, as I said before, there is no generally agreed upon definition of what constitutes art. So what do you think art is, Jason? What is art to you?
Art is human imagination and the ideas of our mind brought to life in a form of a piece of medium
Mm-hmm.
that is easily shareable or viewable by other people.
Okay.
That's what
So,
I think.
so from this point of view, like art is only art if it can be appreciated by other people. What if I create art for myself? Like it's a piece only for me to enjoy. Is that not art?
You're right. So the point I'm trying to let's say illustrate is that it has to be outside of your mind. It can no longer. It can be. It's not art if it's just like in your mind. It has to be something that you bring forth into the world, I guess.
Okay, understood. Okay, understood.
So maybe not shareable. Shareable is probably not a good word to use. Say, but you have to bring it to life. It has to be. There has to be creation, basically.
Okay. So for me, I would say art would be the highest form of self-expression, characterized by an internal dialogue with the self or the psyche attempting to reveal that internal discourse to the world. Does that make sense?
Yes. Can see someone has been thinking about this for a while.
I've been thinking about it, man. Because like here's the thing: when I'm writing poetry, the poetry isn't really. Most of the time, it's not for the world; it's for me, right? But whatever I write out doesn't seem to be coming from me. It's like there's a part of me that is trying to express itself, but I have no way to simply express that through spoken word. I can't just sit down with Jayson and express what I'm able to express through writing when I write a poem, right?
So the unconscious part of it.
Yes. Yeah, so maybe I can make the argument, and I'm sure someone can differ with this argument, but I can make the argument but that it's my unconscious that is doing the writing of the poetry.
But then, I can ask you, at which point does the unconscious become the conscious? Where do you draw that line?
I don't know where I draw the line. I don't know.
It's
yes. I can draw the line like when I get stuck, when I'm writing. Sometimes when I'm writing a poem, it feels very free flow. Like I'm not really thinking about what I'm writing. But the moment I get stuck, I feel now that's the conscious mind coming into play. The conscious mind wants to find the best words, the best rhyming words, the best phrase to use, But the subconscious, the unconscious mind don't really care. They just want to speak. Yeah. They just want to speak. They don't. There's unconscious and subconscious don't really care about what is the best phrase for this situation. Let's just say what needs to be said. But when I pause and I'm like, what's the right word to use in this stanza? I'm like, okay, now that's the conscious mind. That's the conscious mind coming in.
So to visualize this. This is almost like a cook in the kitchen who's trying to make a very good dish, but is seemingly being distracted by, let's say, like children or something. So like your unconscious mind has this thing that it wants to do, but your conscious mind seems to be like the noise that gets in the way.
Oh yes, yeah. Actually, that's really good. Yeah, I like that. Yes, that's perfect. That is a perfect analogy.
So, is it always the case that the greatest form of self-expression always comes from your unconscious mind, from the sleeping mind, from your sleeping self?
It does feel that way. It does seem to feel that way, especially after I read what I've written. The poems where I had to sit down and actually try to think about what I'm going to write seemed very slow, very droll. Like I'm forcing something to come out, Like I'm pulling teeth. It felt like that with those poems. But with the poems where I was letting my unconscious take control, there was an ease even to reading them. It even felt easier to read them, There was a sweet flow to them. Like I'm letting a river take my words down the mountain.
I've never really put I've never really focused my awareness or shined awareness on my whole process, like what's happening within me mentally when I'm doing art or creating art. So I've never really thought about if it's my unconscious mind that is coming up with these ideas or if it's my conscious mind, you know? Because we like to think that everything we do is coming from our conscious mind, that we're making decisions, right? We've also talked about free will and stuff like that, right? But I want to get into that whole, like, the process of thinking about doing something, right? Where do those ideas, like, when you're about to draw something, for example, right? It feels as if those ideas just pop into your head, right?
And actually, this is a perfect segue to the next question I was going to ask you. So I was reading up on the creation of art, and there's an American philosopher of art called Monroe Beardsley. I think he's dead now. He was an old-time dude, like back in the, I think, 40s, 50s, or 40s, you know?
He's a philosopher?
American philosopher of art.
Okay.
And he has this article, an essay, called On the Creation of Art. And this essay has this one piece that I really liked. It says, art is to summon into existence things hitherto unseen or even unthought. Two motives for the creation of art. The artist wants fame, money, love, power, etc. However, he goes on to point the unconscious desire to create art eludes him. This is now what Monroe says, that the unconscious desire to create art eludes him, and he's not competent enough to pursue that line of thinking. However, what Monroe calls about that inspiration to create, right? The desire to create. He calls that initial element an inceptive element. The incept may simply pop into the artist's mind, or accidentally, like something accidental, like hearing the right lyrics at the right moment, you know, or seeing a colorful mural and think, oh, I can make a graphic design that's similar to that, you know. There's always like that moment of inspiration, right? And he calls this moment of inspiration the inceptive element. And what is your inceptive element? What is you as an artist, Jayson? What is your inceptive element?
So, let's break that down slowly. So, he seems to say that there's always motivation for wanting to bring forth your art or your ideas into the world.
Yes.
You mentioned fame, money, power?
Fame, money, love, power.
Okay. I feel like it's ignoring one of the most important things, one of the most important drivers or human motivators.
Which is?
The motivation to kill boredom.
Oh, okay, yeah. So like that was like the thing with fame, money, love, power was just like what he believes is the first motivation. That's just the first motivation he gave, right? But he also pointed out that the unconscious desire to create art does elude him. He does not know why that is. And maybe you're right. Maybe as for you, as you said, it could be just boredom. I have nothing better to do, you know?
I feel like
I might as well do this.
Some of the first artists, right? It's only once they, like, I'm talking about like hundreds and thousands of years ago, right? The people who decided, let's just draw a painting on this cave and see what happens, you know? Life must have been good survival-wise, right? For them to, like, have this free time, the mental capacity, like that freed up mental capacity to think, what if I draw this shape? Like the way I saw that, like, let's say cow, whatever, the wildebeest I just killed the other day, you know? Like, they must have had that freed up mental capacity, right?
I agree.
So, so they had to have that freed up mental capacity, and there must have been a need. So, the freed up mental capacity and free time. That free time must have come with some sort of, like, I don't want to say boredom necessarily, but they want to do something. Not that they're not always thinking about their survival, basically. And usually that's where boredom comes in, right? When you have all this free time and your mind is wandering free. So boredom, okay, so the way I understand boredom is like your mind trying to find something useful to do, which you can't.
Okay.
So there's an urge to do something useful or something meaningful, but you can't find something meaningful to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So wanting but can't, and then boredom arises.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people have done art in order to fight that. I'm not saying it is the main motivator. I'm just saying it's definitely one of the motivators, right? Like for me, like for example, the other day, I got this free beat creator, like music beats creator, on my phone because I was bored. I've been doing this whole like I don't know if I told you, I've been doing a whole purge of like
Social
decluttering.
media.
Yeah, just decluttering a lot of stuff on my phone and my laptop, and I'm just like trying to simplify everything. I'm barely like for the past like 4 or 5 days I've been barely watching YouTube, no Netflix, even anime is just like, so any video format and stuff, like I'm trying to cut away from all of that. The only thing like I've been doing, or at least I've been trying to do, is read more books and listen to more podcasts, and that's it. And wait, I lost my train of thought. So in the middle of that, right? I was really, really bored. Because as you can imagine, if you stop watching all of these YouTube videos, especially YouTube is this huge information vortex. You can just go look for a specific video and then just get lost in the whole algorithm and playlist for like hours and stuff, right? So now with the realization of how much time I've been wasting and actually just being there, and like after cutting YouTube out, it's like I was bored as hell. So I got this music beat creator, and then I was bored, so I just created music. And before I know it, I created beats that sounded kind of cool to me, you know? So that's the whole thing, using art to, like, kill boredom. So
okay, I can see that. So for you, your impactive element is boredom, at least for this situation, right?
Yeah, in that situation. In some other situations, it was for money, right? Like when I was working as a graphic designer. Fame and money were driving motivations for sure. And when I wrote poetry for my lovers, it was love. So it's definitely all over the place. We create art for like, there's a whole bunch of motivations and reasons to create art. So going back to the quote, so okay, she talked about motivations. What was the next thing that he talked about? Because there was something that I wanted to quickly like highlight.
So the first quote is, art is summoning into existence things hitherto unseen or even unthought. Now I didn't quite understand that part. Unthought. Unseen, yes. Unthought. Things unthought.
From my understanding, he's talking about the conscious mind in that instance, because we're constantly thinking about things. Your unconscious mind is constantly processing data, and it's almost like there's a task manager, right, in your mind that only brings forth the most immediate and important things to your conscious part of your brain. If it's not important, it will remain in your unconscious brain. So there's almost like there's two layers, right? Your unconscious mind is processing information such as like noise, light, it's absorbing information from all of your senses, right? And it'll only send specific ideas and reminders and like create specific, let's say, data points. Data points is not it's too high, it's too techish though. It will only create reports, basically. These reports are the ideas, and send it to your conscious mind if it feels like it's important enough, right? So for example, it's like you wake up in the morning and you're going out your normal morning routine, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of stuff that's happening, right? You're touching, let's say, the fridge. Maybe you're hearing music in the background. You're breathing. Your body's pumping blood around your body. Your mind is probably thinking about the day ahead. But in the moment, is it consciously you thinking about it? It doesn't feel like that, right?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't feel like that. But your mind is unconsciously always thinking about those things. Like, it's always processing that data, right? And then let's say when you're making breakfast, you realize, oh, there's that email I forgot to reply, right? Where does that idea come from? Your unconscious mind was processing the data and it reminded you, like it pushed forward that report, like, hey, there's this thing that you need to do. Don't forget about it, you know? So your mind is always thinking about things. And this is a very hard idea to, like, not understand, but to fully, like, accept, because, like we said, we'd like to think that we're always in charge. We're like the main drivers in the vehicle of our minds, always, at all times. We don't like to think that there's times where we might be steered, like, even though we're like the main drivers of the car, there might be like an automatic system that steers the car to the left or to the right a little bit.
Okay, I agree with this. And have you read the book called Doors of Perception?
It sounds familiar, but no, I haven't read it.
So Doors of Perception was a book written, I think, in the 50s, if I'm not mistaken, by a guy called Aldous Huxley. And in the book, Aldous Huxley it's a very short book. I think less than 100 pages, if I'm not mistaken. And he's just describing his experience of taking mescaline. Do you know what mescaline is?
What's mescaline?
Mescaline is a psychedelic, so similar to mushrooms. That's the closest I can imagine. And so, in the book, Aldous Huxley talks about a concept that he proposed, a concept called mind at large. And in the concept states that the human mind is not there to show you reality, but it is there to filter reality. Because according to the book, you take a psychedelic drug, right? And it's not that you start to hallucinate. No, what happens is you start to see things the way they really are, right? But if you saw things that way all the time, our ability to survive in the world will be very limited. So our minds only helps us focus on the things that we need to do in order to survive, right? We need to see the color of the tiger. We shouldn't be concerned with the beauty of the tiger when the tiger is chasing you down, right? Does that make sense?
Biologically, like if you talk about from a biological evolutionary standpoint, it does make sense. Your attention, because the conscious part of your mind, that is basically where your attention comes from, right? And it's very limited. You have very limited processing capacity, your consciousness, or that attention. It's almost like a spotlight, and that spotlight, it can't shine light on everything at all times.
Exactly.
It has to be pointed in a very specific place.
Exactly. And now that's like the thing happens when you're creating, an artist is creating art. You know, when you enter that state of flow, right? When you're in the state of flow and the world seems to disappear, right? It's just you and your creation. That is you breaking the filters of your mind, at least in the process of creating, right? And in that moment, things can happen around you that you're not aware of. You have lost your link to reality. Because now the only world that matters is your art, right? And the creation of your art.
And I think the best way you can know that you've lost that like connection with reality, even for a short while, is when you start making art, and then after you're finished and you're satisfied, you look at the time. Usually, like an hour or 2 hours have passed by, right? And you're just like, wait, what the fuck? You know? I don't know how many times I've done like late night like graphics design, and like I have an alarm to remind me to sleep, so I can get like a minimum amount of hours. and then like I'm doing this piece of art, like I'm like, man, I have one hour, right? I'm good, I can finish this easily. And then it almost feels like 10 minutes later the 1 hour alarm goes by, and I'm just like, what the
Yeah.
fuck, man, there's still like so much I want to do here, you know. And it's just like, okay, let me just do another like 30-40 minutes, and then I put another alarm, and then it goes off, and like seemingly like it seems like 10 minutes, another 10 minutes goes by, and then boom.
Yeah.
But that's because I am focused. Very,
Yes,
very
exactly.
highly focused, you know?
Mhm.
And so the unthought, man, you can break that down in a very lot of ways, but I'd like to think about it as that part of your mind or yourself that you don't understand.
Okay, so basically your subconscious.
Your
That's
subconscious, yeah. The
Yeah.
unthought.
So it goes back to the initial definition of art, right? At least my
But
definition.
there's also like another part of it where you can talk about like it's only by writing things down. Have you heard like the expression, it's only by writing things down can you connect ideas? So art can
I
also
agree,
be
I
that what? It can be that activity of creating new ideas as you're doing it. You can be doing art and something will click within you, and a new idea is born just by you drawing art, you know.
Okay.
I need to give an
Okay,
example for this to better explain it, but it's almost like you writing. You have a dream, and the dream, when you wake up, the dream can be gone, right? Or it's hard to recall. But if you, let's say, got used to the idea of writing down your dreams in a dream journal every day,
Okay. Yeah.
you will start to be able to remembering things within those dreams, and the act of recalling and writing it down might actually change the way you viewed that dream. It changes your experiences, and some of your emotions about those dreams might even change, right? So
I agree.
you had the initial experience, but then this other experience of writing it down has also generated new ideas, right? You had the initial idea that was like new, but then writing it down has also created new ideas. So I'd like to think like you can have an idea in your mind or even in your subconscious mind, but also by bringing it into life or creating it and bringing it into the world, there's elements that you initially didn't think about that have now been added or mixed in.
Okay.
Unintentionally, you know, you've unintentionally done that. This is very hard. I don't know. I feel like there might be a better example to explain it, but I hope it makes sense.
It makes sense, at least to me right now. Yeah. Okay. I agree with that. So far, so good. So let's move on to the artist. So, an artist is considered to be a person with the talent and the skills to conceptualize and make creative works.
Oh, are we talking about professional artists or
just creators in general?
Okay.
So yeah, but again, an artist is someone considered to be a person with the talent and the skill to conceptualize and make creative works. Such persons are singled out and prized for their artistic and original ideas. So I'm not reading something I was doing some research on. So in many cultures throughout much of history, those who produced, embellished, painted, and built were not considered to be artists as we think of them now. They were artisans and craftspeople, and their role was to make the objects and build the structures for which they were hired, according to the design agreed upon with those whom they were working for. So, for example, in medieval Europe or the Middle Ages, an artisan generally began around the age of 12 as an apprentice, right? A student who learned all aspects of profession from a master who had their own workshop. So you can see, back in the day, unlike today, we imagine an artist to be someone who is just naturally gifted, like Jayson just seems to have an eye for graphics design, yeah? Or Oscar just seems to have have the skill to write poetry or write anything, for instance, right? But back in the day, the artist wasn't someone who we just thought to be gifted. The artist was someone who had to learn the craft from childhood, from the age of 12, right?
Historically, didn't like the ancient Greeks and the Romans highly value philosophy and art, specifically poetry and
Yeah,
literature too?
exactly.
Like
But even those people,
they saw it as like something that everyone needed to do, regardless
yeah,
of your
exactly.
ability or skill.
So back then, everyone had to learn from childhood. It wasn't like something that just seemed to like, oh, this person is just gifted. He's not like everyone else, you know. Like today, we have that idea because maybe of how there's capital gain to be made in art, right? You can be the greatest rapper, you know, the greatest designer, right? So you're singled out if you seem to have special skill because those skills can earn you money, right? Those skills can earn a company money, you know, you can earn a record label big money if you're a great rapper, right?
Which we know isn't the entire truth. You do need to be skilled to a certain degree, but if you look at all of the major artists, especially rappers and stuff like that, luck was involved. They needed to meet the right people at like kind of the right time, right?
Like, I mean, but luck is involved with pretty much every aspect of life, man. Luck is everywhere. It's everywhere.
Like, but like outliers, right? There needs to be that. So to the equation of success, you need some form of luck with you, right?
Of course.
Whether that luck is manufactured by you, found by chance, or I think so you know Naval, what's his name? What's his full name? He's like an entrepreneur, philosopher, social commentator.
The guy who created the Angel List.
Did he create Angel List? He's done so many things. Wait.
I think it was CEO of Angel List. That's far as I know.
I listened to his podcast. Let's just look at Naval. How to Get Rich? Yeah, the How to Get Rich. What's his full name?
Angel List, right? He definitely made Angel List.
Ravikant. Yeah, Ravikant. Yeah, okay, we're talking about the same people. Yeah, Ravikant.
Yeah.
So he talks about like, I think it was 4 forms of luck. He talks about, so one, like I talked about, one is the manufactured luck, right? This is the luck that you create through hard work, basically.
Okay.
The second one is, I think he said it's luck created from motion. So this is where it's like you're constantly opening and searching opportunities. So you're stirring things up in the fog, and by stirring things up in the fog, certain things will become more illuminated to you. So this is the kind of luck where it's like, it's almost like things find you instead of you manufacturing the luck itself. The third one is just blind luck, which is the one that, you know, everyone likes to think about the most. The one where it's just like, oh, I'm just gonna go get a lottery ticket. Oh, look at that, now I'm a billionaire. You know, that's just complete blind luck. It's complete randomness, right? So manufactured, found luck, and the fourth one is experience. Is luck created from experience, and these are the people who like can find luck in certain. You can find luck or lucky situations, opportunities based on their previous experiences. So it's luck created from wisdom, specifically. So for example, you as a beginner stock investor, and then you compared to like experience. Let's say somebody's like a veteran, somebody's been in the stock investment field for like 30 years. If you guys look at the same like charts and tables, you might think, oh, this fucking market is doomed. There's no money to be made here, right? But the guy who's been there for 40 years can look at us, like he might have the same conclusion as you, but then he'll be like, but there's this tiny situation where if you did X, Y, and Z, you can actually make a lot of money, right? So he's found like that luck. He's found that lucky opportunity based on his wisdom or his knowledge in the field, right? And without those are like the main four forms of luck. And I think he he talks a lot about them in his podcast.
Yeah.
But so to be a professional artist in any shape or form, I do feel like you need, like, I'm talking about like somebody, like you can be an amateur artist and have a really good, like, decent pay and like be able to sort yourself out throughout the entire year or years, right? But like I'm talking about like the people who are like the Oscar Wildes, the grand and big celebrities, right? The major poets and writers, they needed some form of luck in their lives.
I think so. I believe that luck is involved in all aspects of our lives. The fact that you are able to, you're in Japan right now, luck was involved in that, What are the odds that you didn't choose to wait in Kenya for a few more years and now you couldn't make it to Japan because of Corona, what are the, like, luck is involved in everything we do, I think. So, but like I'm talking about like in the past, right? Right now, like, yes, luck is involved to become a successful artist, but still, like, you can tell who is better than the other, right? You can compare Kendrick Lamar to who's the other guy, to Meek Mill. Who do you think is better? Who do you think is a better rapper? Who do you think is a better freestylist? Like, I think most people will give one answer, not the other, right? And I'm not gonna say who they think is better, but I think we cannot imagine who the people would say is a better rapper, right? And however, for that to have happened, like Kendrick Lamar or like Meek Mill, both of them didn't go to rapping school, right? They didn't go to they didn't go to an apprenticeship to become rappers from childhood, right? They are just people who maybe trained on their craft on their own, rapping with friends, freestyling with friends outside, and eventually were fortunate enough to get record deals, right?
Yeah, they're found by the right people. That's the luck way, by constantly seeking out, and so through action and motion, opportunities look for you. The right people come and find you, right?
Okay,
because you've stirred up things on the ground.
Now, the difference to the past? The difference here is that in the past, for you to become a craftsman, an artisan, an artist, you needed to be in an apprenticeship from the age of 12 at least, right? The age of 12. So it's not like you just popped out of the scene when you're 20 and like, oh wow, I'm a great writer now. No. That wasn't the case. You had to be under the tutelage of a master. From 9 years, for 9 years or 5 to 9 years of your life, you're under the tutelage of a master, right? And you only reach the stage of master when you create a true masterpiece. So if you're under the tutelage for like 20 years and there's nothing you're creating, you're still a student, right? If you haven't created a piece that is considered to be a masterpiece, you're still a student, right? But that's not the case today. Today, how many rappers do you know who are making money and they're like 16? We had the guy Lil Pump or Lil Pimp. There's so many Pumps, there's so many Lils,
There's Lil Pump. Who else are you talking about?
Yeah, Lil Pump is the one. I think, the guy who made the song Gucci Gucci Gucci,
Yep.
Gucci Gang, that song, right? That song was a hit. How old was he? You were like 17 or 16 when that song came out, right?
Yeah, still very young, actually. 20
exactly,
something.
But now that's the case today. You can just do that, just out of nowhere. It's like seemingly you came out of nowhere, And here you are, you're like seeming like, at least for a couple of months, you seem to be the king of the new rap, the king of the new age of rap. But back in the day, like, if you want to be a writer, you want to be like a craftsman, you couldn't just pop out of nowhere. People know about you rising. People know about you because you're the student of so-and-so, If you can use an analogy to compare today, like Jayson,
I'd like to think
is the student of Jay-Z.
That's thanks to social media. Things
yes,
like Twitter,
of course,
right?
of course. Yeah, so I think like time also has changed the concept of what the definition of artist. The times have changed the definition of artist.
This is a very interesting conversation. Like, this has brought up a very interesting question. Are photographers artists, by the way? I wanted to ask you that real quick.
Are photographers artists? I think yes, because yes, let me tell you why. Because you can take a picture with a camera, right?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe the picture you take based on angles and like locations or lighting might not inspire the same emotion as a true photographer's photos might inspire in me, right? So yes, I think
so there's a
photographers are
skill to be found in taking a photo at the right time and place, basically.
time, place,
to invoke
angles.
to a specific emotion.
Yes, definitely.
Specific emotion or strong reaction of some sort.
Yes.
So, by that definition, are Instagram promoters... Is that the word? What am I looking for?
Influencers,
sorry. I don't know why that left my mind. Yeah, Instagram promoters. Well, promoters isn't really, but no, influencers is what I was looking for. Instagram influencers, artists.
No, they're advertisers.
But they invoke strong emotions in their images and strong reactions. Like, let's look at the Kardashians, right? Or like Cardi B.
Mm-hmm.
When they put the
Cardi B is she's an artist, definitely. I mean, she's a rapper.
But like, I'm focusing on her Instagram, right?
Okay.
All of these like Instagram like women who are making money from these promotions and stuff like that, they're obviously putting content out there that is sexually provoking in some way. Some of it is clearly highly sexualized content, right? Like when they take a picture of them with their booty shots in the gym and they're like fucking whatever, you know, or them twerking and stuff like that. Like all of this stuff, we know what's happening. Like every adult knows out there, and we know that this is how they make money.
Yeah.
Yet we still give them our attention and our views.
I mean, like, the reason why I give them our attention is because it's sex and sex sells, you know. Like, it's obvious. We're not looking at, like, I don't think most of the people looking at those videos are looking and thinking, wow, she twerks so nice. I wonder what her technique is, you know? I don't think that's what's going through your mind when you're looking at a woman twerking on Instagram. You're not asking yourself, how did she train for this? What's her technique? I wonder if I can learn to do the same thing, you know?
But does that stop it? Knowing the motivations doesn't necessarily stop it from being art, though.
And no, this is the, I don't know. Like, I'm conflicted. I won't say it's art, but a part of me is like kind of, I'm just not sure about this. I'm not sure about this. I have no definite answer to this.
It's because maybe I'm just like, tell me if I'm wrong, right? I'm just presuming here. Maybe it's because you don't want to put in the same lane as like other artists. Like, you don't want to compare, like, how do you compare an Instagram influencer just taking pictures of their ass to somebody who's like worked, let's say, 10 years?
Yeah, you can't compare. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. It's really not the same thing.
We're talking about like the amount of effort put in.
Yes. It's not. It can't be the same thing. Unfortunately, one is just more interesting or desirable. Like, you have to, no matter, I might not enjoy ballet dancing. I might never watch a ballet dance in my life, but I can see how much effort these are people who are truly suffering for the sake of their art form, right? Physically, they're truly suffering, right? However, seeing a girl twerking on Instagram is more interesting for me than watching a ballet dance. And it's not that it's interesting. No, it's just, it excites me sexually. That's it.
So, when you get to like levels, there's levels of art form, and like the greater the sacrifice elevates.
Exactly.
So sacrifice can elevate art form.
Yes. And like, I don't know what's being sacrificed when you're twerking. Maybe something is being sacrificed. Maybe your dignity is being sacrificed. I don't know. I don't know what's being sacrificed. But like, it's not enough of a sacrifice for me to call it art, you know?
I guess sacrifice elevates a lot of things in our lives in general, right?
Yeah.
So if you sacrifice your art, everyone understands pain and sacrifice.
Yes.
Because we do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as adults, we're always sacrificing shit. So when you see somebody like you said, you might not necessarily even like the art form, but you can understand and empathize with the sacrifice itself. So you respect it in that sense.
Like, let me give you an example. Like, recently there's been a lot of there's the figure skating championship being held. I don't know where it's being held. I'm not sure, but
those guys, like, if they get injured in one spot of their body, it's like their career is done.
No, but like the point I'm trying to make here is that I've never been interested in figure skating, right?
Yeah.
But there's one guy called Hanyu, I think, a Japanese guy. He's our age actually. And when this guy was skating, I couldn't stop watching him. Jayson. I was mesmerized. It was just so. I felt like I've never seen such beautiful movements in my life.
Oh wow!
Right?
Okay.
But this guy, he's probably been skating since he was 4 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's 26 now. He's been skating since he was around 4.
Man, skating must be like breathing to him.
Or exactly.
Riding a bike.
He's so good, Jayson, at skating that when he was number 1, right? He had the highest points. The guy who was number 2 had like 300 points below him. That's how good that guy is.
Okay.
Like, watching, I know nothing about figure skating, but watching this guy, I just understood all the sacrifices he had made, you know? Like, there's no way you get this good without, like, he probably has no life outside of skating. Probably has nothing outside of skating, right?
That's how a lot of these people tend to live. You'd be surprised.
Exactly. It's extreme sacrifice. Now, can I compare that to watching Cardi B, or not just, okay, let's stop mentioning Cardi B, but like just watching a random woman on Instagram twerk? There's no way I can compare the two. Now, one makes me horny, and one is beautiful. You know? One makes me think of sex, and the other one makes me think I'm watching God, you know? I'm seeing God before me.
The human effort and sacrifice separates the two.
Yes.
But it doesn't stop it from being an art form, does it? Still.
But it does. It does.
You're not always like, every time you write down a poem, right? Yeah. You're not always like sacrificing.
No. Like
a part of yourself.
Sometimes the poem I'm writing isn't art. It's just not good enough to be called art.
But we already
most of the time actually.
But that goes against our initial description, where it's self-expression, you know.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? In the creation of the poetry, I have to go through stages where I'm not creating art, but I'm just sacrificing time in order to learn how to create the art the right way, right? And that's why when I'm creating the poem, most of it isn't really poetry, it's just attempts at creating poetry. But the thing that's being sacrificed there is time in order to learn how to create poetry.
The Instagram influencers sacrifice time going to the photo shoots. So what's your point?
Yeah. So they're sacrificing time, but the end product is the end product really. I don't understand how the end product is art. I'm sorry. For someone else will probably say yes, but for me, I just don't see how the end product is art. I really don't see it. Now, maybe now let me be fair. Maybe the emotion or the sensation they do aim to inspire in the viewers is horniness. And if that's what they aim to inspire, then they have succeeded. And maybe that's the art form. The art form is simply aiming to create horniness in at least the people who are attracted to that kind of thing, you know? Me being included.
So, I will clearly state that I definitely think it's art.
Mm-hmm.
But, like what you said, you know, sacrifice elevates art. Let's just say you can create art, and then by sacrifice and like an immense amount of effort can elevate it into like this level of divinity, basically. Like what you said, it's almost like you're seeing God, you know?
Yeah.
And it's all through sacrifice, pure sacrifice, and blood and sweat that these people have created
Now,
like just a high form of art, right?
okay, now let me ask you
So
this, Jason.
Instagram.
When you watch the girls talking on Instagram, what goes through your mind?
So
Are
Instagram
you really being
promoters.
inspired? Are you really being inspired? Like, if you say it's art, what makes you call it art? Are you inspired by the art from you're observing?
You're picking the worst kind of examples. That's why we're like
No, but no,
handpicking
but
the
like
worst
no,
kind.
because that's what you said you call it art. I want to understand why you call that art. So that's why, like, why would you call it art?
So this.
I'm not saying it's not art. I want to understand why you call it art.
Let me add context here.
Mhm.
I think there's lots of Instagram promoters that aren't just going for low bearing fruits, are trying to create
Okay.
over sexualized content and
Mhm.
commercialize on the horniness of men. I think there's
Mhm.
some Instagram promoters that are doing that, but really
Mhm.
what they want to do is modeling. So they take like so they're doing this provocative content, but they're also
Mhm.
doing like this inspiring content where they're wearing all kinds of like dresses and clothes, and they're trying to like do something interesting and creative with both what they're wearing and their bodies, right? It's not just I'm thinking about like the Instagram promoters that are actually trying to do something interesting, right?
Jason, I'm gonna stop you right there.
So
It sounds,
I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm getting to it. Just relax. I'm not done. So modeling. So they're basically trying to model, and they're trying to create
uh-huh,
and provoke strong reactions with the
uh-huh.
form or the shape of their bodies. That may or may not include clothing, right? So what I see when I look at some of the random women on Instagram, some of the random promoters or influencers, sorry, that are trying to do that, they're basically trying. It's almost like a low resolution form of modeling, and the only thing, it's low resolution, but it's also still extremely effective because it uses it uses that, like, it's almost like it uses this like perk, or it uses the horniness of men. Basically, it has a wide reach. It's still very effective even despite it being low resolution, like low resolution modeling. And that's all because the primary audience members, men, are looking for sex. Like you said, sex sells, right? So it doesn't matter if it's low form art form. It's a low resolution art form. It's
So
sex.
I'm gonna ask you this, Jason. How often do you use Instagram?
I never use Instagram.
So, like, what is your description or your definition being based on?
Of what? Description
Like,
of what?
like how you're defining the models you're seeing on Instagram if you've never used Instagram.
Oh no, I've used Instagram. I used
No.
to use it a lot, like last 2 years.
Now, I use Instagram regularly to this day. And I can tell you, like, so I'm scrolling through one model's page right now. Try to find a reason to agree with what you're saying. And what I'm seeing is a beautiful woman who's mostly half naked in her photos. And I'm like, it's very hard for me to see the art in this. And maybe it's just because I'm horny, right? So I can just see it as arousing. That's it, you know?
But again, I'm like,
it's very, okay, and maybe that's the art. Maybe that's the art. The art inspires arousal in Oscar. Maybe that's the consequence of this art form, right?
but arousal isn't the only emotion that can be evoked from the shape, but from seeing the shape of a human body. It's not just arousal.
Well, here's the thing: when a woman is bending down, ass up, with a G-string, that's what's happening to me.
Again, that's a very specific example. There's all kinds of, again, I'm talking about like in photography, in modeling, there's all kinds of like different, like even like your poses, right? When you're modeling, that's important because the different poses, there's power poses.
I agree with you. I agree with you. However, like in this case of Instagram models,
again,
like,
there's some models who are not just trying to be naked, basically.
I'm not saying all of them, but I feel like quite a number of the ones, at least the ones I have seen, are not what you're describing. At least, exactly. So maybe it's just what I'm seeing, right?
And to
What I'm
me,
saying is,
it's the same activity, but again, like I said, it's just low resolution. It's low bearing fruit. That's all they're doing. They're weaponizing their bodies in order to reach a wider range of people. I think weaponizing is a very good word to use here. They're literally weaponizing that biological urge in us to get our attention and money.
so okay, which I agree. So I think we agree here. They're using the point of this art form is to inspire arousal in us.
Yes, but that doesn't stop it from still being art.
Yeah, I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that. But I'm saying, like, beyond that, I think, yeah, I agree with that. Like, if the point of the art is to inspire arousal in at least the people who are attracted to such things, then yes, they are succeeding and it is an art form. I do agree with that. But now I still can't compare this form of art to something like figure skating or ballet dancing or graphic design or like sculpting. I can't, like, maybe there are categories of art, man, and there's extreme art, and extreme arts are that's figure skating, that's ballet dancing, that's sculpting, that's extreme art, because that requires, I feel, at least for me, this is my own interpretation, that requires extreme sacrifice. And I wouldn't even put writing in the same category as figure skating. No, because I don't think many writers are putting the amount of sacrifice into their art form as a figure skater is putting into the art form.
I don't know.
And I think
there's people who have gone.
Yes, I know. I'm not saying all writers, but I'm saying most writers. I don't think most writers are doing that. Right? Are going that far. Maybe Stephen King went that far, and I think when you go that far with writing, you go kind of nutty. You go kind of crazy.
Yeah, you have to be a bit crazy.
Yeah,
and like, to do that. Yeah.
And I wouldn't put Instagram influencers on the same list, on the same category as a figure skater. No fucking way. Yes, we can argue whether or not they're both art forms. We can even agree yes, they're both art forms, but they're not the same thing, Jayson. One is I would call one an extreme art form, and the other one, it's like you said, it's low hanging fruit.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I said, with sacrifice, the level of sacrifice elevates the art form.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so we agree on that. We both agree on that.
So, like, figure skating, like, even I know nothing about figure skating, but from, like, the physical toll on their bodies and the rigorous training, I have some idea of the rigorous training. I've seen, like, videos and stuff on the rigorous training they must do in order to, like, compete at the highest levels. It's like, you can't compare that level of sacrifice and that art to, like, again, a woman twerking on Instagram.
It's like, no disrespect to twerking on Instagram, but it's like, it's just not the same thing.
It isn't. And I think most people will be able to understand that because, again, sacrifice is a very old thing. And we understand it almost like innately. I would like to say innately.
Yeah.
That's why when you see somebody in the gym with a huge ass body and you see him sweating, you can feel envy and jealousy. But
you know.
Yeah. Most people look at him, men, women, it doesn't matter. They look at him, and a lot of people will be able to instantly understand the amount of time this person has put in. I think famously, but like before you mentioned, you'll be able to see the shape of discipline in this man. And that can create instant respect. Because you see, through the shape of his body, you've seen the time and the sacrifice he has put into sculpting that huge ass body. And that, like, again, it can create a lot of emotions instantly.
I agree with that totally.
So, levels of art. There are definitely levels of art.
There are definitely levels. Yeah,
all of these Instagram people are creating art whenever they post a video of them twerking with their huge asses.
Yeah, it's art, definitely. It's definitely art, but yeah, we've said it's low hanging fruit. It's low hanging fruit. It's true. I mean, it is what it is. It's art, yes, it's art. But come on, like,
and
we know what it is. We know what it really is.
We're exactly 1 hour on the dot. So this was quite the interesting talk. I liked it. And this week is a double episode because last week we didn't record.
Yep, and we will have our first guests. for the next
Yeah.
episode. But
Do you wanna give a little bit small description of who you were bringing on?
we're bringing on, as we mentioned last time, Nails Nathan, who is a visual artist. And I met Nails Nathan in Japan. I met him at AA. He's a very interesting man, covered in tattoos. He's an interesting dude. That's what I can say. He's a very interesting dude.
So
I think our listeners will be very excited to hear him speak.
It'll be an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Any final comments?
Final comments for all the listeners out there. Tell us what you think about art. What is your definition of art? This is very interesting. For all the listeners out there, please let us know what you think of Instagram influencers twerking. Is that an art form? Yes or no?
Well, you hyper focused on twerking, but there's all kinds of things they do, right? Taking pictures half naked, taking pictures with lingerie.
Instagram
stuff
influencers
like that.
Generally, men and women.
Yeah, there's that, and there's men too, right? Men with
artists?
I guess gym bodies. I'll get the gym bodies, the bro guys,
exactly.
the bro types, the jocks and stuff. Like they're trying to.
So let us know what you think. Is that art? Yes or no? And if you say yes or no, please give us your reason as to why. That will be a very interesting way to start off the next episode.
And with that, we can end the episode.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, listeners, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye, Oscar.
Bye-bye, Jayson.
And